What up, y'all? Welcome to Two Lost Conversations. This is where we talk with some of the dopest artists on the platform and learn more about their story, their success, their trials and tribulations. And on this episode, I have a cat who's been killing it. I believe he has over 2.4 million monthly listeners.
Yes,
So we want
sir.
to learn. We want to learn how this happened. We got we
Appreciate it. I
got
appreciate the graces.
we got dementia in the building. What's going on, man?
What's good, bro? It's nice to connect. It's nice to connect.
Likewise, likewise. So, for those that are not familiar, can we just get a little bit of the background, the story of how you even got started in music? Where did this journey start?
All right. So it's a bit of a wild ride, but so I go by dementia. I'm from Tampa, Florida. I just say I make R&B, but I make a fair amount of genres, ranging from like alternative rock, electronic, hip hop, uh, just whatever my mind takes me when it comes to making music. But I've always been playing music since I was younger. So like I was playing piano as a kid. I was just
Mm,
all self-taught. So like I would hear like a song play on the TV, like in like a commercial or like a song opening to like a cartoon, and I try to learn by ear, you know. And I
mm,
got kind of slick at that, so I was really enjoying it as a passion. Um, Around I would say maybe when I was 12 or 13. My brother had a hand-me-down guitar that he left after he moved, so I picked that up, learned how to play it. Um, and then at this point, I was pretty clean with guitar and piano, but I never did like anything vocally. Like I used to freestyle with my homies at school, or like I would like I don't know, I'd do like covers, but like it was never anything serious. But then I figured because I play two instruments, I might as well sing as well. So I
mm-hmm.
started learning how to sing by listening to there was a song I used to listen to. I would listen to Neo, "So Sick" by Neo, and
Mm.
like "Can't Help But Wait" by Trey Songz, and I think like another like Keisha Cole joint, and I would just keep trying to sing it over and over until it sounded all right, and that was my way of learning. And I'd say up about 2016, I had a lot of like personal family issues and everything going on, so I ended up dropping out of school. I was never big on school or anything like that. Um,
At 16, I saw you dropped out at 16.
Yeah, so I did the dash at 16. Up until then, like I was getting into a lot of trouble and just wasn't focused on school at all. Um, so I wish I could sit here and be like, yeah, I dropped out of school, focus on music, make it sound clean, but like music wasn't even on my mind at that time, you feel me? So I was just like, oh man, I just know I can't go to school. Like I can't do this no more. So I didn't I knew I was gonna hustle one way or another. I just didn't know it would be music. But then I was left with about three choices because I knew I needed to do something and like fast and like make it work. So the first one was I was gonna hustle and like I was gonna like buy Jordans and flip them because that's what I used to do like on the side here and there.
Mhm.
I would just buy Jordans and Yeezys and flip them on like eBay or Facebook Marketplace when I was younger. So I was either gonna keep doing that. I was gonna do MMA, but I couldn't afford training. My best
Mm.
friend, he's part of a MMA team, so I was just gonna join him, but I couldn't afford it. And then the last one was I'll just figure out how to do this music thing. And so I went with that because that seemed like the immediate like I can learn now, you know, I can start now.
Right,
Um,
right.
and then from there I was I downloaded FL Studio, watched a bunch of YouTube tutorials, and then I dropped my first song 2017. And then in my mind, because I had dropped out and didn't have anything else to worry about, I was like, all right, I'm gonna just make this work. And the idea I came up with was I was gonna drop a song every 2 weeks without fail, and then just like flood the gates with just my music. And
Hmm.
that's what I've been doing since. It's been working out.
Damn, you still dropping a song every 2 weeks?
Damn near, I be dropping like 3 or 4 albums a year now, like going stupid.
That's crazy. So the consistency, I mean, it's dope that, you were able to kind of, because your music's dope. I checked out a few of the songs
I
like, okay,
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
this cat So you were able to, like you said, teach yourself the guitar. You never had like formal training. It was all just kind of by ear and then just
Yeah,
repetition and YouTube.
yeah.
It, to the so normally, as you know, as you have success as an artist, you probably attract other. You hopefully have access to more. Have you grown your network? Have they been able to? Has anybody in your network been able to kind of assist you in your uh, rise or just your abilities as an artist?
I'd say I got a couple close homies that I'll be collaborating with um that makes the process a lot more enjoyable. But I'm very much
Mm-hmm.
so like I don't know, like I mix and master everything myself. I produce everything
Mm,
myself. And because I was doing nothing but that from when I dropped out
mm.
till now, it's like I've got it down to like a pretty decent science to where I can make something I want within like an hour or two. So
That's
now it's
dope.
just like I don't know. Now it's just like whenever I introduce new people, usually it's pretty fun, but in general, it's like there seems to be like a disconnect because I already have like such a clean way of like it's not clean, but like
Hmm.
a very
You're
like
already in your
you know
you're in your zone. You know
yeah.
what works for you, and no, I get it 100%. So okay, you start releasing music, once every 2 weeks. When did you start to actually see some traction? You're like, oh, okay, this is starting to move a little bit.
I remember dropping the first song, and I would post it on like Facebook to let like all the locals know like, hey, I'm on this shit. And I think that got like a couple hundred plays, and I was like, yo, I'll take it. And then
Yeah, for
and
sure.
then I believe the second song I dropped started actually getting a decent amount of plays at that time for SoundCloud, which was like a couple thousand plays, and I was just
Hmm.
sharing it on like I was sharing it on like Twitter, YouTube. YouTube was like I know I don't know how popular it is now, but I remember back in like the 20 probably like the early 2010s. So like there was a lot of YouTube channels that would host like underground music. Um
Hmm.
and I would just flood those channels with like my songs as like a submission. All the free ones that will have like an email like contact me here and I'll just send it. And they got picked up by like a couple channels that host like cloud rap or like sad music on SoundCloud and stuff like that during that wave. And
Hmm.
I was able to get a couple of placements, which helped a lot. And then I just didn't stop. So like a song will like either do pretty well or it'll be like whatever, and like that it was just a non-factor to me. I was just gonna keep going. So by the time I dropped my like by the time I dropped the song called Ocean of Stars, which I think was like it was definitely my like first 10 song. One of my first 10. I don't remember if it was like the fifth or sixth, but I remember dropping that, and within a week it got 10K. And I was like, oh fuck, like it was such a great feeling in comparison to like
Right.
the couple hundred. Uh, and I found out it got posted by a YouTube channel, I believe called Sad Boy Vibes or something different, and like a couple Brazilian channels that really liked it. Uh, and then I found myself in a small collective called Castle in the Sky back in the day. And those are some of my best friends. I'm still friends with them today, but they were all bigger than me at that point. And they had all like reposted my songs on SoundCloud, posted on Twitter, and it was
Mm,
cool because I used to listen to them prior to making music, so it was like super sick. They're like a collective of like super dope producers, and
nice.
yeah, from then it's just all gas. Just been keep keep
Dope.
posting, keep posting.
So the fact that you saw some numbers increase, I mean, you can't get to a million if you're gonna get to 200. You
Yeah,
can't get to,
facts,
and
facts. That's
so
that's the only
dope.
thing I had in mind. Like I had I don't know. I'm very much so the type of guy to like I'll aim for like something that people would deem unrealistic. And then I'll just like if I land in between, that's still a W, you know. So like I remember
Hmm.
I remember my goal was to hit like 1,000 followers before the year ended because I had dropped in like summer, and I managed to get there like super quickly, like much sooner than like my goal. And I was like, yo, I'll just keep. I'm like, all right, next year I'm gonna hit 10, and then
Yeah.
I just kept going, kept going.
So these numbers can work in two ways, right? Like I just talked with another cat named Eric Reprid, who's
Yeah,
another dope artist that we work with at Two Loss, and he had to take a break from social media because he kind of became, he didn't use this word, but he kind of became like a slave to the numbers.
yeah,
Like it was depressing. It would kind of make or break him. So that's the downside of numbers, right? Like if you
yeah,
fall into that trap of like, only focusing on the numbers. But on the positive side, it's a reality check.
yeah,
And if you see like growth from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, like it gives you encouragement, right? That
yeah,
you're on the right track. It gives you encouragement that you're on the right track because from last year to this year, if you went from 1,000 to 10,000, that's reassuring that you're doing something right.
yeah, for sure. Because it's like,
And
I feel like it's a slippery slope, to a lot of people. I never had that for me. I've always looked at numbers like strictly for what they are, and I've
Mhm.
like completely detached myself from like all the success or all the crazy numbers that I'll see. Like it all means, I don't want to say it means nothing to me because it's definitely incredible, but it doesn't mean more than like what I'm doing, if that makes sense.
Mm,
So like
no,
no, if a song flops, I'm not second guessing my abilities. It could just be like a crazy delusion, but it's helped me a lot because I just don't really
mm,
worry about like a song flopping. I'm like, all right, I got like 400 more, like 400 songs in the vault. There's more where that came from. I don't give a fuck, you
right,
know. So
yeah,
I just keep going, and I don't know. It's definitely it's interesting because um I mean, obviously, with all businesses, there's going to be numbers involved, but it's so
hmm
crazy to see something as intimate as like music, and then also seeing like a monetary value right next to it. So it's very easy to slip. Uh, but it's just I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like you just focus on the actions that you know you can control because you realistically can't just control numbers. I mean, you can, but like your day to day like hustling, you're not gonna. That's not 100% dependent on you. So
right.
I would say just focus on doing what you know is best for you and your career, and just don't stay like don't get caught up on like the numbers and all that shit.
Yeah, I mean, every artist has to make the decision for themselves, right? Because
Yeah.
obviously, that like this, I'm older. I'm a lot older than you, but
Hmm.
I see that this sad era, and I talked about this, I think, with Eric as well. Like, you guys make this sad music, and it's like it's working, right?
Yeah.
And I've known artists that were really in that space making that music, so it was authentic and it worked. But they've gotten out of that space and they still make that music because it works,
Yeah.
right? Because of the numbers. So, but it's very I mean, the music is good, but it's like, damn, it's so depressing. It's like, yo, y'all,
Yeah.
this young generation is on, they need some help.
Yeah. Nah, I feel that because I don't know. I'm very grateful for my audience. That was one of my worries actually because I remember uh being the fact that I dropped out and being the fact that music was my clutch. So I was like, oh, that's like I'm really making some crazy decisions here. So I remember thinking, like, how can I create something that I can never fall off from? Like, what's something that I can do that will never like be taken away from me? So it's like I was never. So the first one was I wasn't chasing a viral moment. I know it
Mm,
sounded a lot. It sounded like I went from like just 0 to 1K to 10K, but it was all very up and down. Like when I think
mhm.
back, it feels like that, but I know at the time it was very up and down. Um, Considering I've been just dropping nonstop since 2017. But I say that to say like I I was like so I guess the first one is consistency. So I'll just make sure I'm like impossible to ignore. And then the
Mm,
second one was I made it a goal to where every other song I dropped was a different genre. So
mm,
I would drop like an R&B song that'll go crazy, like an R&B lo-fi song that'll go nuts. And then after that, I'll drop the contrast of that. So I'll drop like a hard like rap banger after that. And then and so like over time, I've garnished an audience that's been like supportive of every genre that I do. So I'll never get caught in like the, oh, I can only make R&B or I can only make sad music, you know. So I think
Mm.
that's also a pretty decent takeaway um, for independent artists.
How have you been able to maintain this consistency? Because a lot of people think, a lot of people want to be consistent and then they tap out in like a month and a half, right? Maybe
Yeah.
because they weren't getting the response they got. Maybe they run out of ideas creatively. Like, how do you stay consistent for this long?
Um, it's hard. It's hard to because in my head there's no other way. There's nothing else I
Mm,
can do. So uh, it's like if I'm not consistent, then what? Like my mind doesn't go to, oh, everything falls down. I'm actually kind of taking like a small break for the first time. My audience won't even notice because I have everything loaded up. But like
mm,
so for me, I'm just chilling. Uh, but so it's not like I think something terrible is gonna happen if I stop. But it's like if I'm not consistent, then there's nothing like what else? What's the other option? And for me, there's nothing else. So I'm like, all right, I'll just keep going. And I think a lot of people think like consistency have to be like this like rapid amount, and it's just whatever works best for you. So like I know that I could comfortably drop a song every 2 weeks. So then I just stay at that. Like I pick that rate. Some people could drop weekly. I could drop weekly, but there was a chance that I might slip, and I didn't want to take it. So
mm.
I went for the every 2 weeks. So if for someone else, the time frame is like, oh, I can comfortably drop every month. Just drop every month without fail. Or like I can only drop every quarter. Then it's like, well, just keep dropping every quarter, like without fail. Because your audience will get used to the pacing of that regardless. So it's just, um, it's kind of like with like working out, right? Where it's like you start hitting the gym and you go in like 7 days a week. You're going 110%, and then after about a month of that, you give up and you're done, right? There's no progress.
Right.
So it's like the thing that I try to tell people is it's better to go like 70% every single day than it is to go like 150% for a month and then quit or burn out, you know.
Yep.
So that's something I would try to get a lot of people to know because there's always going to be like the hustle culture like pushing like, yo, if you're not making moves daily, you're not doing this shit. And it's like, well, if you're not making moves after a month, then you not going nowhere, you
Right.
know. So
Right.
everyone's different. It's just
Yeah.
it's just finding a way to stay focused like for the most days as you can, I'd say.
Yeah. No, you definitely need to pace yourself. What was the first song that went like super crazy? Like they hit a mil plus.
um I remember I dropped a song called Disappear, and I got added to oh man. So you know how you're supposed to drop music on Fridays, right? Because that's when like all the playlists and all that shit like it'll like update and like there's a release radar and all that. So it's kind of
Hmm.
like this industry standard to drop on Friday. I did not know that until like 2021, dog. So I was dropping every Saturday, right?
Hmm.
And somehow to my luck, I got added to a playlist, an editorial playlist on Spotify called Tender. And when I dropped the song called Disappear, and I remember at the time at this point I had maybe like 30 to 60K on Spotify, and then wait, no. So I dropped Disappear, and then I get added to the playlist, and then I went from about that 10K to about like 30 to 60K on Spotify monthly listeners, and I was like, yo, like that's crazy. Um, and so I was like, I didn't really take the time to like celebrate that or be happy about it, because Disappear was one of them like very personal tracks. Uh, so it was ironic because it was such a depressing song, and I was feeling really hopeless at that point because I still dropped out. Money's coming in, but not really. Like I'm about to turn 18 at this point, and
Hmm.
I dropped the song, and then it goes stupid. I was like, oh my God, like that's like it's like a sign to not stop, you know. And so I
Hmm.
was like, all right, I'm gonna keep going. And then I used that um like attention to just keep going, and I would just channel it to like my upcoming releases. And so over time, I remember that song after like maybe like a few weeks, it hit 100K on Spotify, which was huge for me. And then after a couple months, it hit that first million, which felt really good. And so I kept dropping. And then my heaviest hitter was whenever I dropped this EP called Good Night. And it only had like 3 tracks. My idea was like making like a literal like lo-fi tape. So the total runtime for those 3 songs are like 5 minutes because I pictured it like playing like back to back, kind of like as like a little like set sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
the first song was called Tonight, and it was a super slow burner. So like initially it did all right, like it did whatever, but it wasn't like the best song on the thing. And then I think maybe after like a year, it started going viral, like viral. Um, and that I think that was what changed everything. Where I became like top 100 over in Asia. I started charting all across like the different genres that I do, and then on Spotify it like blew up, and now it's at about like 50 million.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I'm gonna become a broken record on these conversations because every time I talk to artists about like their biggest song, like they never knew it was gonna be their biggest song. They don't necessarily know exactly how it became their biggest song. It's just consistency and continuing to put it out to the
yeah,
world. And sometimes an audience takes a liking, sometimes it's an algorithm and it starts to just share with other people that it thinks might like the music, and they add it to their playlist, and that's just a snowball effect.
yeah. So after that hit, it translated to like everything else. So like people were finding that, and then they would go check out my like 100 plus catalog at the time. I think right now I
Mm-hmm.
have like 220 some songs out, which is crazy. So it's like
Dope.
once that once that hit, everything else started hitting afterwards. And it was like I've never had like the I drop a song and then it instantly goes crazy. It's usually I drop a song and then in a year or two people like pick it up and like they're like, "Oh, hold
Mm.
on, like we kind of missed this." And then it starts going crazy. But in general, like my stats were always like relative to like whatever my following was. It was never like I drop and then everything changed. It was like I drop and then a couple of years later and then it changes.
Right.
So it's
Right.
like it's like you can never like guarantee a hit, I don't think, but you can always like up the chances of that hit happening. So for me, it was
Mm-hmm.
just a no-brainer to keep going and keep releasing.
Yeah, and when you do get a hit, that catalog is crucial, which you found out,
Yeah,
because you had a shitload of songs. Like if somebody likes one song, now they can just get lost in your world and go through this
yeah, that was
playlist.
the idea that
Two,
I had because I'm like
yeah.
I was like because I've been playing music for so long, I never like questioned my ability or anything like that. So in my head, I was like, if I'm really that guy, like how I think I am, then within these like 100 to 200 songs, at least like 10 of them got a hit, right? Because because I don't know, that's just how I saw it. So I'm like, all right, I'll just keep releasing so that when something does hit, they can get lost for like an hour or two and just like listening to like everything else that I did, which I
Mm-hmm.
find like super important because there's so many times where like you'll find like a dope song and then you click on it and you're like, let me see what dude talking about. Like let me see what's going on. And then there's like 6 songs out and you're like, nah. So I didn't want to be that guy. Like I didn't want to be like I wasn't betting on the hit. I was just betting on like the like just both consistency and the quality. So it ended up working
But
out.
all of the reps you put in early days to actually get good at making music
Yeah.
allows you to be consistent and maintain a certain level of quality,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes people will play around with Fruity Loops and they make an absolute banger, but like they don't really know how they did it.
Yeah.
They got lucky. But you actually understand kind of what you're doing. You have the reps, you know how to make music, so you'll have more control of the quality from song to song,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So I
I'm
think
glad music was like what I picked to be my hobby, like when I was younger. because now it makes everything so much easier. It's just like, oh, it's just like I go back to like my inner child, and then I can just play everything out in my head, you know?
Right. And I think hopefully people will listen to this conversation and really understand that piece. Like you put up, your 10th, or you did your 10,000 hours, you
Before I was
putting
dementia, you know?
exactly. And I think that is what really helps you today.
Yeah.
Maintain your consistency. So who is a dementia fan? Like, where are they? What type of people are they? What do they care about? Do you know that about you? I'm assuming you have some insight into this.
Yeah. They range a lot, which is super dope because it's like I have an album out right now called Psychosis, and Psychosis is like straight alternative rock, and it's like there's like a mix of like shoegaze, there's a mix of like deathcore, like some real deep cuts. Um, and I remember I released that after releasing this album called Wired, which is just straight rap. It's just all bangers. And then prior to that, I put out Goodnight Part Two. This was all in 1 year. And Goodnight
Mm,
Part Two was like just my R&B, like smooth, clean cut R&B album. And so my audience range is crazy, because you sometimes I'll see one of my fans, and like there'll be this dude with like hella tats. He's like a punk rocker, like got a big ass beard, like he might be, I don't know, like he might be jacked, you know.
mm,
And then sometimes I'll see like just like an Asian girl going to university, real nice, real clean cut. Um,
mm-hmm,
and it's like my favorite part about that is that I bring everybody of all like walks of life together because I have so many different genres. And one of my favorite comments that I get is when people go like, "Oh, like I hate metal, but like I listen to this and now I'm kind of like finding bands that I also like," which is so sick because you don't know how much music you're missing by listening to only one
mm-hmm,
genre, you know? And it goes with like the creative side too. Like you don't know all the skills and little finesses you can add if you are only making one genre. And so
mm-hmm,
I feel like, and like obviously I listen to everything. So like I know how like metalheads can be like real elitist with what they listen to. Like sometimes it's not heavy enough, or like, so like to get those guys to listen to R&B is almost harder to get like your average dude to listen to metal, you know? So it's super sick to see everybody coming together and like finding things that they never would have guessed they would like. So
so have you hit the road yet? Are you doing shows?
yeah, I've done a couple of shows here and there. It's been one of my other goals to start touring maybe this year or next year. But I was never like stressing it too hard, because the way I looked at it was like I almost wanted to like reverse engineer my career, right? So it's like, especially because I dropped out, I wanted to make sure it like worked out and I had like passive income. And plus I love
Mm-hmm,
creating music, so that's something I can always do. And so
mm-hmm,
it's like once I make it on that front, I can always reverse engineer the merch and the tours and the brand and like everything else afterwards. Whereas like I feel like all the vanity and all the like social media stuff is like very fragile. Like I feel like that can go away pretty quickly, but you can't discount like a 200 song catalog, you know? So
right.
uh, my main focus was just music. And then once that went off without any like gimmicks, now I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna make sure everything looks a certain way, or like I'm gonna try and incorporate like shows and whatnot to like the dementia world. So that's
Right.
been on my mind more so this year, next year.
So the one thing that I, that's a challenge with Spotify, obviously, if your music starts resonating with people, it can take off and do well, but it's really hard to like convert those people into not necessarily fans, but like people that you can interact with, right? Because you
Yeah,
can't really interact with people on Spotify, and it's really hard to like get people to come to your socials, like to really just, have that engagement. I mean, at the end of the day, it would be ideal if we had phone numbers and email addresses so that we would own that,
yeah,
communication. But how do you, obviously you're getting streams, but what if your fans want like a VIP merch pack or something? Like
Yeah,
how are you thinking about like, translating your Spotify success to other success, whether it's merch or whether it's eventually coming to a show? I know that
yeah,
Spotify has the ability now to, to put I think you can put your shows on there.
yeah. You can do your
Um,
shows and you can do your merch, which is sick. So I started doing merch. I want to say like 2019 up until now, which I had a couple like pretty dope drops. I try to do merch every time I do an album, so it's like all
mhm,
like very stylistic and like it's themed like towards whatever the album aesthetic is.
mhm.
Uh, and then of course like with shows, you can add like your song kick link and whatnot. But the way that I kind of saw it was I mean there's no like right or wrong way, so this is all preference to me. But I
Mhm.
knew my thing was like I never wanted to be famous for me. Like I never wanted to be famous because like I got that swag or like I'm funny. Like those are all like bonuses. Like I don't care about me at all. I care a lot more
Mm,
about my music. And
mm,
so in my head it's like there's nothing like I couldn't be happier with the fact that like people love my music and like care way more about my music than they do about who I am as a person. Because like
mm.
I'm not here to be like I'm not here to be like the cool guy or like I'm not here to, you know, whatever. So now it's like I think now it's like I'm just incorporating my face onto more things. And I've been doing like a music video every other song. Uh,
Mm.
and so it's just like it's just full throttle on like the brand and like the aesthetic sort of thing. Mainly
Dope.
heavy on like Instagram. I try to use TikTok, but it's TikTok's not for me, dog. I'm gonna keep it 1,000.
Just
I'm not.
just repost the same stuff. At least just repost the same stuff, man. I don't need to see you out
Yeah,
here doing the Macarena or anything else, but at least have a presence, man.
yeah.
I think it's important. Um, we can wrap this up, but I did have a question, just more two law specific. Like,
Mhm.
one, how long have you been using Two Lost? And two, if there's any type of tool that we could build that would help more, or anything you wish the platform had, is there anything that you can think of?
Um, I didn't start using Two Loss until maybe it must have been like a month or two ago. So I'm still pretty new to this
Oh, it's
myself.
new.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay.
Um, but so far, I mean, it has a lot of features that comes in handy. I know that I'm very much so like a do-it-yourself kind of guy. So it's cool to have all the features to do it on the website as is. Like you don't really got to reach out for too many things unless there's something like
Mhm.
unique that you would need done. So I'm pretty happy on that front. And I'd say right now I'm just rolling out my new album with them. So with that like 1 month of experience, I'd say I'm pretty happy with everything going so far.
Dope. You don't need to name the name, but what made you move over? Like, what was there something
Um,
specific or?
so pretty much, I was looking for, I was, my end goal was never like a major label because I truly enjoy like the process, um, of just like doing everything myself, releasing everything myself, and just counting on like my ability for like release dates and like art and like all the stuff. Like it's just all very enjoyable to me. So it was never like I wanted, I wanted something that would be like that extra push if I needed it, like just to know it's there.
Mhm.
While I'm like working on like music and doing whatever I'm doing for dementia. And Two Lost just hit me up, and I had a couple phone calls with them, and it seemed like the right fit. I still have my catalog. I still own that. I'm not really touching that. So just doing like a new album rollout with them has been pretty tight.
Dope. Good stuff, man. Oh, lastly, what is I probably should have asked this earlier, but like, what does the team look like? Because some artists, try to use an excuse of like, hey, I don't have this person, I don't have this person. It sounded like obviously you didn't have anybody in the beginning. You had to basically,
Yeah, but man, I was thugging it, dog. It's not as easy as I make it. I'm just used to it now. I'm
uh,
gonna keep it 1,000.
no, I already know. Hearing the story, I already know. What it probably was like. But what does the team look like now? Who do you can? It's probably still a very small team, if anybody else. But
Yeah.
who would you consider like the team?
So right now it's like I got my lawyer Josh. He's a G. Shouts to him. Um, and then I got a lot of my friends are like very multi-talented, so I can depend on them to do a lot of things. So I got a homie. He's a dope ass singer, producer, all that. His name's Cozy Boy. I'll have him like shoot all my music videos and color grade it. I actually edit my music videos myself. Uh,
Dope.
and then my homeboy Dion, he's a rapper slash singer, and I'll bring him wherever on like travels, and he'll also help me like shoot like small videos here and there for content, or he'll like he might even like be that guy who like talks when I don't want to, because he was in
Hmm.
the Castle in the Sky collective I mentioned back in 2017, so he's been there every single step of the way. And then I got my I got my childhood homie. His name is Michael. I've known him since I was like 11. And the funniest part is that bro does not care at all about music or anything, but he'll just pull up because we're homies. So like one day
Hmm.
he might be cameraman, the next day he might be the light guy for the music video. Like he might carry the lights and like make it look clean. Like I don't know, he might be the
Dope.
merch guy for like my next show. Um, but the rest is like I'm cool with doing like the 80% of the work, and then like whatever people can fill within that 20%. Like I'm not asking for much, so it just works
Dope.
out.
That's dope, man. Well, I definitely enjoyed this conversation. I'm looking forward to checking out a few more of the songs. He's got a ridiculous catalog, so if you
Yes,
want to
sir.
check out some dope music, so I'm an R&B fan.
Mm.
That's probably like my top genre. That's what I grew up really listening to. My favorite group is Boys to Men, but
Oh,
I'm still stuck in like the late '90s, early 2000s. So I'm like Life
you and I
Jimmy and
both,
Jack.
bro. But hey,
Yeah.
this upcoming album that I'm doing, this upcoming
Okay.
album
What?
I'm doing is dropping really soon. Well, it's not really soon, but it's dropping like early summer. And so,
Okay.
that whole album is inspired by the like late '90s, early 2000s, like
Okay.
Neo, Trey Songz, Usher, Keisha Cole. You feel me? And
Okay.
it's like all the hooks and like all the melodies are like those like heavy hitting like memorable melodies, and then like the production is like modern. So that's like how I like tie it together. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I had just dropped a song called "Stay Forever." I think you might like that.
Okay.
It's got a dope music video to it, and
Dope.
that's been my main thing right now. And then after that, I'd say if you want to check out some more R&B, it's like Goodnight Part Two is solid. Um, and then Somehow is also solid for my R&B projects.
Okay. Dope. Nah, I'm definitely gonna check out some of those. You said "Stay Forever," right? That was the name of
Yeah,
the newest.
I had just dropped that I think like 2 days ago. Yeah, last Friday.
And that's on the upcoming project that you're
Hmm.
dropping.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dope. Definitely go check that out. Well, cool, man. Well, again, I definitely appreciate you taking the time. It's been a dope convo. Yeah, I know you're not heavy on socials, but let people know what your socials are.
So
How can
you can
people
find me
find
wherever. My username is Wow Dementia. So it's Wow and then DEMXNTIA on Twitter, Instagrams, uh, my YouTube channel, just Dementia. My TikTok's Wow Dementia as well. So very consistent with that.
you? Yeah, I mean, what people are going to find, hopefully, listening to these conversations, is none of my guests make excuses. They go out, and they get after it. They don't have somebody to shoot their music video. They become the videographer. They
That
don't
is
have
true.
anybody to make their beats. They become the producer. We have the ability now to do all of these things, and it's amazing
That's
to see these
facts.
young people take advantage of it, and have the success that you're having. So, I hope that you have continued success. And the one thing I do want to tell you though, when you said what else am I going to do, there's a lot of stuff that I'm sure you could do. You just got to put that same effort to it. Whatever it is, bro, I'm sure that you're going to be successful in many other careers. Once you find some additional passions.
Thank you,
So,
bro.
I know you love music, but just do the same thing. Just attack it the same way. And I'm sure whatever it is, you'll be successful. So
Thank you, bro. I
this is
appreciate that.
for sure. This has been another episode of Two Lost Conversations, another dope one, I might add. Catch us next time. See y'all. Peace.